This is an idea you came up for before the war. How did the war itself kind of accelerate the process here?
Yeah, as you said, this was started back in, and the final investment case started back in 2021. And the reason was that we saw a huge demand increase in the NSM and the JSM demand. So obviously the innovation by Russia in Ukraine, what we have seen is that, I would say the speed of demand is going up, and we see more and more countries asking for these type of capabilities.
And is the demand large enough to justify more investments like this? Because we've heard a lot of complaints from some defense contractors that there's a lot of talk about the orders, but they're not there. Are you receiving the orders you need to do more of this?
We receive definitely the orders. That's the reason why we have built this factory. I think we are well off as it is today. Obviously, we will going to consider also other facilities, other places like Australia, US, as we go along and see the demand coming.
And where are you seeing that demand coming from geographically? What militaries are you experiencing the greatest demand from at the moment?
Today, we have delivered our NSM missiles to 13 countries, including Norway. And basically, it's NATO and the allies that are requesting these type of capabilities. So I think, obviously US, we got the over-the-horizon contract with the US back in US Navy back in 2018. And we also now see the F-35 coming online. And then also the JSM is a capability that more and more countries would like to.
And when you think about your manufacturing footprint, because I understand that you're going to open a facility in Australia later this year. You also have already some operations in Pennsylvania. With rising sort of protectionism, is that something you think about in terms of where you actually produce this material and for the specific economies?
Yeah, obviously there is some restriction of certain parts of our type of products. But basically we can, as I say, Australia, we're going to open up a partly assembly line where you can do part of the missile, and then there is something that we have to do here in Norway. But definitely we can increase our partly assembly other places like Australia, probably US.
And then attracting investment, it's been a bit sort of a taboo historically to kind of invest in defense. That has changed. Are you attracting new kinds of investors?
I would say that after the Russian aggressive war in Ukraine, we see that there has been a wake-up call, I would say, in Europe, in the world, that we need the defense. We need to increase our capabilities, defending our sovereignty. And I would say that the investors are eager to talk with us, but obviously there are also investors that don't invest in defense.
And one of the biggest investors in the world is the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund. They, for example, will not invest in certain companies, not Kongsberg, but ones that are invested in sort of nuclear capabilities. Do you think that there needs to be an amendment to some of the funds and sort of changing that? Will that change the perception and attract more investment to this industry?
The Norwegian fund is not allowed to invest in Norway, it's only outside.
But in terms of a signal?
Yeah. I think you see a shift from certain funds, actually. As I mentioned, there has been, I would say, before the war, there was special funds that's saying that, okay, we're going into the more sustainable green part, and then went out of defense. We see some of them coming back now into the defense side.
And then in terms of sort of the things that are going to prevent you from scaling up, where are the bottlenecks right now? We know there's a lot of concerns about maybe not having the right labor. Where are what would be the thing that would block you from doing that?
No, I think when we made this investment case, I think one concern was not basically to build a factory, it was actually the supply chain. I mean, it's a lot of suppliers into this factory. So we also had to work very thoroughly with all our suppliers so that we make sure that they are building up the capacity as well. Obviously, this factory is really automated. It is the most modern factory that you can do when you talk about missiles. So we also can scale at a certain better rate than we did before, but not necessarily increasing extremely on the human capital.
And if you need to scale, are there other parts? Obviously, this is the missiles. You make a lot of different kinds of hardware. Are you seeing demand increasing for other kinds of hardware as well?
Absolutely. I mean, the place we are now, we started here back in 2007. We was 200 people. We had 20,000 square meters. Today we are 1,200 people here. We have 90,000 square meters. So both on the air defense, on the space part of Kongsberg, and also the missile production.